say that for some reason, UNLV. But they're practicing at their fields, which are outside. And in Las Vegas, much like the Bay Area right now, it is pouring down rain. And the fields are wet. And the 49ers have been practicing on wet fields so far. And now on the fields, apparently the grass is softer than anticipated. The Chiefs are practicing, obviously, in the Raiders Stadium because it's supposed to be a home game for the Chiefs. But I think that that's probably a big disadvantage for the 49ers. And apparently Kyle Shanahan is furious about it. I think it was Tim Kawakami came out and said either Kyle Shanahan is losing his mind or people that Kyle Shanahan is telling to go lose their mind are losing their mind.
I can't hear you. I don't know if you got muted.
Can you hear me
There
now?
you go. Yeah.
Cool. Sorry. I got a new mic. I didn't even get it. My friends Lacey and Eli, who I've been staying with, got me this new mic, which is really sweet of them. But I've been before the stream. For anyone who wants to know behind the scenes, I asked Steph like 200 times if she could hear me, and every time she was like yes, but I was really worried that I wasn't gonna be figuring it out. But yeah, what was your initial takeaway learning about the field disadvantage? Obviously, I think this was something they must have had to know about previously, like just that they weren't going to be practicing on the same field, but they didn't feel the grass until showing up. And I do think the 49ers are a bit of, and not that you shouldn't be. I mean, they're state of the art like franchise. It's the biggest event of the year in all sports, arguably making billions of dollars. But the 49ers are definitely very picky about their grass. Jed York, one thing that he's always done is taken really good care of Levi's and the 49ers in the grass fields. I know Roger Goodell came out and said that the field that they're practicing on is fine. The NFL also thinks like the Jets field, what is it, MetLife Stadium is fine.
Yeah.
I remember that week one game a couple years ago on the Bears field. That field was ridiculous. So I don't necessarily consider the NFL like up to standards with what they should be. But yeah, the 49ers been making a really big deal about it today, not saying unjustly, but what was your takeaway learning about this? Do you think it is a disadvantage? Do you think there's something they can do to change it? I don't know if you can like roll out a field. I don't really know how that works.
I mean, for one, originally hearing about it, I had so many questions, and some that I've since kind of learned along the way. Like I was like, how, like who decides where each team like practices, and so I learned that. Yeah, you mentioned the home team of the Super Bowl gets to practice in the hosting team's facilities, so that is why the Chiefs are at the Raiders facility. The 49ers are at UNLV. Last year, the Chiefs weren't the home team for that Super Bowl. They practiced at Arizona State. So they were in similar situation there
So
where
this
they're
is like
practicing
common.
away from, yeah, like this happens, right? What isn't common and what is egregious is the NFL completely botching that field situation. I mean, even if they deem it playable, like you said, they would deem MetLife playable, right? And I mean, the fact that UNLV had an artificial turf field and they went and put natural grass on top a week ago. A week ago.
Yeah,
Usually
like not prepared. Like you would have thought this
usually
would
that
be
happens
something.
like months ago. Like they
Yeah,
start preparing
because they
those
prepare
things.
the grass and stuff, right? Like,
Yeah.
because there is teams that roll out fields, but if they're doing it every single week and they're preparing the grass like all off season, I think it's is it air? It's not Arizona. What team does that? I've heard there's a bunch of teams that do that where they roll out the grass field every week.
There's a few teams that
Yeah.
do that. I do think Arizona is actually one of them because I remember them like really talking about that in the lead up to the Super Bowl, how like they have the fields underneath and they like rotate them and whatever. It's like a big elevator or something. um so yeah, I mean it that is a common thing. That's something that the Raiders and the NFL are going to be using for the actual game at Allegiant Stadium. But at UNLV, obviously they only have the one field to work with, was a turf field. They put the grass on top of it. Of course, the grass on top of a turf field is going to
It's
be
gonna be like
soft because for one, like it, I mean, it has nothing to set
Steph's
into.
like,
It's
I
on
didn't
turf.
go to school for this, and I like this is basic.
I mean, I do got to say, like, I'm not a expert on fields, right? So like, I don't know. I'm not I'm not qualified to speak on what's, what's right and what isn't, but it just doesn't seem right, right? I mean, you're talking about multi-billion-dollar business in the NFL, and you're having some issues with your field. Now, partially too, you kind of said it, the 49ers have grown to be particular about their playing surfaces, and they have been known to make a stink about fields that aren't up to their standards. They have worked very hard to make Santa Clara and their practice fields and Levi Stadium fields be perfect to their standards, right? And so, as Roger Goodell said, it's playable, it's just softer than what they're used to.
Roger Goodell was like, 49ers are some freaking spoiled little kids.
So like
and,
and that's what I don't like, right? Because like now this has become a whole thing, and it almost this entire day has been talk about this, and everyone who isn't a 49ers fan is looking at it and they're like, well, the 49ers, here comes the whining, they're just a bunch of whiners, they're soft. All these things, they're making up excuses already. That's the part I hate about all of this. Like, it's taken away from the team being in the Super Bowl, getting ready for the Super Bowl. I don't want it to be a distraction for the players. I don't want it to be an excuse for the fans. I don't know what they can do at this point. I know some of their options. One was, trying to negotiate with the Chiefs to see if they'd let you use the Raiders practice facility as well. They're not budging on that. That's fine. I wouldn't really expect them to anyway. And two, maybe they can bring in a new sod to lay over. I don't know how much good that would do. And then their only other option besides those two things is just kind of suck it up and hope, nobody gets hurt in the process, right?
Yeah. Well, when kind of talking about maybe other fans of other teams or even Roger Goodell making it seem like the 49ers are spoiled for asking for this, I felt like, and we kind of touched on this, but Israel made a good point where he said the NFL is the richest sport in the league, or the NFL is an extremely rich sport, and it's unexcusable for them to be installing it so late. I've thought for a long time that it makes no sense. I know Nick Bosa, I think also Kittle. There's players on different teams. I think Micah Parsons all over the league. They every once in a while they do the like stop the turf thing. They're all like in an organization trying to what is it, like make every field similar in the NFL. But I remember I heard Nick Bosa talking about this. I think it was after they suffered those like cluster injuries at MetLife Field in 2020. And he was talking about how, because it was the week later that some soccer players from Europe were coming, and they rolled out like a real field on top of the turf.
And they're doing that again for the World Cup, by the way.
Yeah, like how are they able? How are they doing this for other teams, but not making football, which is like not only just in America, but they're trying to expand their audience to be worldwide. Multi-billion dollar, the hugest sport in America. How are they not prioritizing their players in the same way? And it is funny because I think 40 whiners or whatever, like they're called that because like Jets players have to play on MetLife Field or whatever. But that shouldn't be the standard. Like, I think it is smart. And I think you do need people that are kind of willing to make a ruckus about this in order for the billionaires to actually want to change, because they just don't want to, like, the players, to us, to like normal people, we're like, oh, they're millionaires, suck it up, play on the field. A billionaire, like, they can afford the field. Like they deserve to kind of get blowback, especially like, I think like you were saying, like it does suck to take away from the narrative of just how awesome it is for them to get there. I know everyone kind of talks about like, is it, make or Super Bowl bust, make or break type thing, but just getting to the Super Bowl is such an accomplishment. This team has had so much success under Kyle Shanahan, and it's so cool to be back here only, 4 years later. Incredible feet. So it does suck that is kind of the prevailing conversation this Monday. And I bet the media that's going on right now, I bet the Kyle Shanahan, all the players are getting asked how it feels. I bet that's a huge topic that's going on right now.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know, instead of blaming the 49ers for not sucking it up, I agree with, I think it was Israel's comment that kind of said we should be blaming the owners for not taking charge of this more. But with what you were saying with kind of like dealing with it, I don't know about if they can roll real grass. I feel like stuff like that takes a long time. I remember, I think, was it last year's Super Bowl? They talked about like months in advance preparing the field and everything. So I just don't think that would be any less. And I'm wondering, like, aside from comfort, are they more just worried about injury? Is that why the 49ers are making such a big deal about it? Someone says the NFL doesn't care about players, so they only want money. Unfortunately, I kind of have to agree. I did see someone say that, like, I hope the fix isn't in and it's not, them trying to unite.
That's what I'm talking about.
This happened before. Like, they made this mistake before the Chiefs were supposed to be in the Super Bowl.
Conspiracy, like, against the 49ers or in favor of the Chiefs. Like, the home team, being the AFC, is determined like every single season. We already know next year it's going to be the NFC. If the 49ers are in the Super Bowl next year, for example, they're going to be playing their practices in the facility of the team that hosts them, right? In that city. So it changes every year. They don't know what team was going to be in the Super Bowl, what two teams were going to be in the Super Bowl. They didn't know it was going to rain. Everyone's talking about how dare the NFL put, the Chiefs indoors and the 49ers outdoors in the rain. It, like, how are they supposed to know?
They didn't know it was going to rain. It was like supposed to be whoever the AFC team was going to be, it was going to be a home game for them. Like, this was decided before.
So it's not some conspiracy. That's what we're not going to do. We're not going to make some excuse out of this as 49er fans. Like,
oh, I like that. That's a good point. Go on that, because you're right. Like, you don't want people to be like, see, they lost because they practiced on the wrong field.
People are already doing that. They're already, like, making up their excuses. They're already throwing pity parties for the 49ers. No, if the 49ers are as good as, we think they are, if we think that they can overcome the distractions of Super Bowl week, maybe this is just another part of that, right? They're going to go in that game. The field they practiced on in the week hopefully doesn't matter at that point, and they go out there and win this game. Like, the field shouldn't matter. I don't know. The only thing that as most people probably would be concerned with, are the injuries, right? You just go through these practices hoping to not get any injuries. But if you could do that, there aren't any excuses about this field.
I completely agree. I would hate to. There has been, like, a theme, I feel like, with every loss, that the 49ers have had, not winning the big game, where they have this kind of reason why we're still the best team, but because of XYZ circumstance, we couldn't prove it. And it would suck if the narrative, not only among players or coaches, who knows if they would have, but just even around fans, if it would be like, oh, well, obviously it was going to work out like this. You have to think of it the opposite way. If the 49ers were, because I don't know, jokingly or just clickbaity, I titled this show like Super Bowl sabotage. But if the 49ers were playing in Allegiant Stadium and they had to change their practice schedule that they were used to in order to benefit the Chiefs, I bet that they would be like, screw you, like, I'm going to take this advantage too. Like, that's not, I think last week, you and I, or at least I know I did, talked about, like, better to be lucky than good. Not meaning, like, not good to be good. Obviously, you have to be good when you're in the NFL and this far. But when I think I was talking about some of Purdy's drop picks in that Lions game and his ability to come back. And obviously, I think he did so many things well. But you have to factor in any team that gets to the Super Bowl, both teams, Chiefs and 49ers, there's going to be luck. And so this is just something that is lucky for the Chiefs. Do you consider it maybe bad sportsmanship or wrong of the Chiefs to not alternate their schedule to let the 49ers practice within Allegiant Stadium. And I want to caveat this by, I was in Las Vegas over the summer for preseason, and their Allegiant Stadium is huge. They have like multiple indoor fields. So my only thing that I don't understand, and maybe I just can't, I've never been to a 49ers practice, so maybe I can't conceptualize how big practices are. But in my mind, both teams should be able to practice because there's multiple fields. But maybe I'm wrong about that. Do you think, that was kind of two questions. One, do you think it's like sabotage, bad sportsmanship on the Chiefs side, or do you think the 49ers would do the same thing? And two, if you have any idea, maybe you've read something, do you know why they wouldn't practice at the same time? Maybe because they would see each other?
Yeah. Yeah, you can't have two teams
everyone in the comment is like, this is what the Patriots got in trouble for, Ashley, and you're just like, why don't they just give each other the game plans before?
Yeah, they can't practice on the same.
That makes sense. I love that I like
place at the
went
same time.
off on that for 2 minutes, and everyone watching was like, no.
That's part of the reason why the 49ers would need to kind of negotiate with the Chiefs and the NFL as to being able to practice at the Raiders facility, right? Because then the Chiefs would have to change their practice schedule to accommodate the 49ers to be able to practice there. So that's why the Chiefs also are like, nah, because I mean, they have their set schedule. They want to stick with that routine throughout the week. I mean, it's not the Chiefs' problem. Like in their,
much like how we think the NFL should have like prepared for this, it's important for fans to know like the team has set their schedule and like planned media availability, planned practice times, planned when the players are going to have off. Players get into a routine of when they're going to do their rehab. All that stuff has been planned for months when it comes to this. So it's not like the Chiefs are just like, oh, we don't want to, push everything back an hour. It's like their whole schedule is already made up around this.
Yeah, and there's other factors, I'm sure, like, someone mentioned it earlier too, like the Chiefs players probably leaving all their stuff in the.
Like, does everyone see that? Look at it is glistening, Steph. Damn.
It's my light here. That's super
that
bright. But yeah, I mean, someone mentioned it. Like the Chiefs maybe want to leave all their clothes and all their equipment at the Raiders facility, right? Like if the 49ers come in, they'd have to move all their stuff, bring it back the next, just like it creates an inconvenience for the Chiefs.
Couldn't they have the 49ers use like the away team's locker room?
I guess. Well, yeah, I don't know where so it's the practice field, not the actual like Allegiant Stadium. So I don't know if they have two different like lockers.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's where I'm wrong, because I was like, I felt like in the summer they had like 3 different fields, because I remember you as a fan you could go, and it was so annoying because I was like, oh, you're gonna see, and they practiced like 3 fields away, so you couldn't see. But now in my brain I'm like, well, why wouldn't they practice on one of those 3 fields? Like I remember there being way too many fields there.